Shabbat Shalom. So last Shabbat, it was Tazria. And this Shabbat's Parsha is Metzora. And you might remember I said sometimes they're together, Tazria and Metzora. But this year, because we're spreading things out to get our year, our Jewish lunar cycle back together, they're separated. So in the news, you probably heard, in Sacramento this past week, there was yet another shooting. This occurred and it killed 6 and it wounded many more. And it was the largest mass shooting in that city's history. It is said that mass killings are on the rise, especially here in California. To quote a New York Times article, in just this year alone, there have been 5 mass murders. That's the killing. It's considered of 4 or more people, and 3 of the 5 took place in California. We are in a sad state of affairs, not just here in California, but all over the world. The country all over the world. Democracy as a whole is under siege, not just in the Ukraine, but all over Europe, not to mention what happened here in America. Civil unrest and negativity takes hold, and everything that we hold dear is at risk. Life imitates art. I go from watching the series Outlander, does anybody watch Outlander, where the new liberals, they're now fighting for freedom and to rise up against the king and to establish the United States of America and get rid of that imposed servitude, only to then see how our inalienable rights that they fought for centuries ago are still being challenged several hundred years later, both here and abroad. So actually, look at the Torah. Things haven't changed that much in 5,000 years. We struggled for our freedom in ancient times, and even though God had set us free, humanity as a whole is still struggling today. Democracy and freedom is challenged at every turn. May the definition of this disease, let us take a look at it, because this dis-ease and the disease lies with us. Last Shabbat, we went into great detail about Sara'at and the plague, the disease that can affect homes, clothes, and ultimately us. We become afflicted through acts of negative speech and behavior. This seems to be a perpetuating global condition of humanity that never ends. There's so much strife in the world, and we actually have the power to change things if we change the way we conduct ourselves. We become impure and diseased by our own behaviors and our own deeds. We addressed this, as I said, last Shabbat, but today's Parsha goes even farther into the conditions of impurity, identifying a more detailed, naturally occurring state of impurity when you come into contact with someone who has just recently passed away, and when you come in contact with recurring bodily fluids, which we do not have to go into detail, but you can think about them. Zion Nefesh, in a Kabbalistic interpretation on this Parsha, recounts a story Rabbi Elazar learned from his father. When an unclean spirit dwells at home, the Holy One sends leprosy onto the walls. Remember, we talked about it. It's the house first. To purify the house, the home, and its inhabitants. Both of the negative spirits fight, and they go against each other. The leprosy wins. It's actually a purifying agent and sends that unclean spirit out of the home. The complete purification comes after they cast those infected stones out of the walls, out of the city, and replace them. And remember, we said sometimes they find hidden gold inside those walls back in the day. Similarly, when the Holy One wants to remove the impure spirit, he brings strong judgments to remove the impure spirit from the world. So we're going to think about judgments, like attitudes, things that are placed upon a person to make them change their behavior. The forces of judgments take dominance until they are destroyed, together with the original place of impurity. So the sages teach that those who get into an impure state attract greater impurity. So you're impure and you're in that negative state, and so you're like a magnet, and you create this domino that you attract more and more impurity. Because the new unclean spirit is more significant than the previous pure one. It takes it over and stays until the vessel breaks. So the vessel that has now become impure has to be broken so it can be rebuilt again, restored, pure. He goes on to say, impurity starts with a very small negative action and tends to grow more prominent because the negative spirit wants to have full control over the person, giving the example of somebody who's dieting. And this morning I woke up and all I really wanted was a donut. Now, I haven't had a donut in a very long time. And I knew what I had written in my sermon. And I thought, shame on me for wanting this donut, because I'm going to be in an impure state and I'm going to have to deal with it later. So you'll see what he said. The person dieting takes a very small donut, and I wanted this donut because Passover is coming. The person dieting takes this very small bite of his favorite forbidden food, leading to yet another bite and another bite, eventually losing control. The judgment that comes after is visible. What happens? You gain a few pounds, and then what happens? You feel miserable, you feel negative about yourself, and you have to deal with it. Or not, and it just goes worse and worse and worse. The Israelites in Egypt became impure. And before they submitted entirely to the other side of negativity, God put them into a long period of slavery under Pharaoh. That was their judgment. Pharaoh was the carrier of the judgments that helped purify the Israelites from the impurity that they absorbed. So, they were a stiff-necked people, they worshipped idols, they did all kinds of stuff, so it might seem extreme, but God placed them into slavery. In a sense, that was their judgment, their punishment. Then he freed them, and this cycle goes around and around and around. So Pharaoh was the vehicle for the judgment, but then Pharaoh was not he should not have been a slave master, right? So to break Pharaoh's judgment, God brought on him what? The plagues, and destroyed Egypt, which housed the negativity, that negative side of the energy, and the source that was the judgment, the slavery on the Israelites. So another example of this is the Holy Temple. Both temples were destroyed, and it is thought that the temples were destroyed because of the impure behavior of the Israelites. So now the same process works on a personal and a global level. On a personal level, we can break our vessel to remove our impurity and the judgments. And we do this by fasting. That's why we're supposed to fast on Yom Kippur. So we fast, we get in that state of a near almost death-like state, and we wear white, and we cleanse ourselves, and then we rebuild ourselves back for a whole new year, hopefully putting our vessel back together so it'll be better for the next year. The other potential for creating a broken vessel that can be renewed is with a broken heart. So fasting disconnects us from the desire to receive for our own self, and then it lets our soul take over our body. So in the Bible, in all different faiths, they go out and they fast and they get like these grand, revelations, and then they come back and, then they apply those to the world. A broken heart is a state when a person sincerely regrets what they have done wrong, how they have possibly harmed another person, so that person then passed a judgment on them and their heart was broken, their vessel was broken, and so then they want to correct their behavior so that they can go out and rebuild and have better relationships and interactions with others. So in the Psalms it says, the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit and a broken and contrite heart. On a global level, judgments that come from impurities created by governments and world leaders, what happens? They cause war and death. The evil side and impure forces drive people to confusion, chaos, and then ultimately questioning their faith. Where is God? Think of the Holocaust. Everybody's like, how did this happen? Where was God in all this? This is the final and most powerful play of the evil, dark side. When we become disconnected from God, the light stops flowing into the world. And in this case, the world as a whole falls into the dominance of the evil side. And the evil side then uses people as a source of energy instead to promote negativity instead of light. So for example, in today's society, Putin, and I don't do politics on the Bima, but for this example, Putin passes judgment upon Ukraine. He decides to take it over and wage a war. The United States and European allies band together and pass judgment on Putin, levying sanctions, seizing assets of the mega-rich, and hopefully diffusing the situation and bringing an end to the war, thereby enabling Ukraine to rebuild and actually come back better than before. So we think about the vessel gets broken, and then it comes back better than before. So have you ever noticed how there's a war, a country gets completely devastated, and then what happens? They come back, they get built up better than before, and become sometimes a mega superpower, dominating others. The vessel is destroyed by the judgment, and then it is built back better because of it. So as we go into Passover, and we think about this, because this is really our new year, so you have to think about when we do the Heshbon HaNefesh, the accounting of our soul at Rosh Hashanah, that we actually are doing that now with the removal of the things that puff us up and thinking about what those things are so we can be better in this coming year and at least create a better world for ourselves and everyone around us. We need to shatter our vessels, ridding ourselves of that which is not working. So you see, I had to not go get that donut as much as I wanted it. And you can see I still want it, but I'm not going to get it. Seeking to uncover, we have to go look with that candle, the feather, and the spoon in the dark. My dogs love that. Those hidden crumbs of pride, negativity, and ego that are holding us back. Freeing ourselves from all that enslaves us individually and collectively. So let us do the work as one humanity sharing this world. Let us begin at home with ourselves. And this week, look at your cupboards, clear them out, just as you would clear your mind. So if you have some boxes of things that have been there a while, throw them away. And as you do that, think of yourself clearing your mind. If you look at your spices, if some of them are outdated, your medicines, it's a good opportunity. Just think of it's an exercise to say, I'm freeing myself of that which is old. If you just do this one thing, and I'm going to make way for my vessel to have something new. Step by step, as you separate that which puffs you up, if you look at it actually, with the reality of the actual holiday, beans, grains, cookies, crackers, cakes, and then you seal them off in another cupboard or you give them away. As you clean your home, ridding away all of the affliction that you might have through this actual Passover spring cleaning, you thereby then clean your soul, clearing away any judgments from the past year of everything that ails you and holds you back. You free yourself from that which enslaves you or puffs you up by eradicating all ego, pride, and negativity. You literally clear out your cupboards physically, but you also clear out your vessel spiritually, metaphysically. You clean house figuratively and psychically. And you should sell your chametz. Every single member of this community should sell their chametz. I say this every single year because the reality is there's probably only 3% of the people in this community that are actually clearing out their cupboards. So you know what? You don't want to clear out your cupboards? Sell your chametz. It's the same thing. $18, not a big deal. Just sell it to us. And then what happens is that you're freed of all of it. It's just like you did it. So for example, my daughter, what is she doing? They're moving to New Jersey the day before Passover. Why? They don't have to prepare their house for Passover. But in a sense, it's even bigger because I was there yesterday. They're clearing out their cupboards. They're throwing away everything they don't want the Packers to take. They're actually doing it, whether they realize it or not. But they're going to go stay with her in-laws, and their whole house has been prepared in the Orthodox fashion with boiling water on all the countertops and things all covered up and all the dishes, the new dishes for Passover and the pots and pans and everything. So these are the things that, that we do to prepare. But at the very, very least, which is not a small thing, is sell your chametz because it's tzedakah for temple and it's tzedakah for your soul. So create humility, restore your vessel to a pure state, chasing away any possibility for those negative, evil forces to take root and dwell within. Our being and our world will be better for it, and the promise that's inherent in Passover will prevail. May this be God's blessing, and may this be our mission for the coming week. May you come eat chametz. We can have donuts and pancakes and French toast all in one meal on Friday morning. Shabbat shalom.